creative continuity. We bring the convention to you.
All right, this is Harold Gann with Creative Continuity. I'm here with Arthur Suydam, known as the Zombie King.
It's what my mother calls me.
Now, what inspired you to become the Zombie King?
What inspired me? That's a good question. Yeah, I actually come from, I'm from New York City. There was a school in New York City that based on the notes of Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, and Michelangelo from the 15th and 16th century. They rebuilt the Atelier School of these particular artists. It's in New York City, 4 blocks from my house. It's called the New York Academy of Figurative Art, and I went to that school. And so about 90% of the curriculum was anatomy-based. So I had to do autopsies. I had to sculpt cadavers. I had to paint cadavers and draw cadavers. So I was reading a lot of comics and then watching horror movies. You put all that together, and Marvel Zombies is what you get.
Awesome.
And Marvel Zombies is what started the whole zombie revolution.
Marvel Zombies.
Yeah, Marvel Zombies. Marvel Zombies got the Walking Dead signed and everything else.
Right, now your style of artwork, you were saying, I heard things saying that you have to do it a certain way and it's a lengthy process.
Yeah.
So could you explain how exactly that comes about?
Well, as I said, my techniques are classical techniques. They're the same techniques in painting. If you're going to paint realistic and you're going to do any kind of work in oils, there's really only one way to do it. And it goes all the way back to the 14th century. Actually, I think Leonardo da Vinci was one of the first to do that, where you do a complete finished underpainting before you start working in oils. You do it in a what we call friendlier medium, where you could paint quick and draw quick. Then you work out all your problems there, and then when it comes time to work in oils, it's kind of like you're almost painting by numbers, where you're painting over a painting that you've already rendered and you've already gotten all the bugs out of. So you're really doing the painting 2 times.
Wow.
But this is the same technique that Norman Rockwell used in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s as well.
Wow.
Yeah, same technique.
Wow, that's awesome. So like something like this Nirvana picture right here, how long would that?
How long did that take me? Well, that one's a little tricky because I painted the picture twice. Originally, when I painted it, there were 3 babies in the picture. And the main baby was more of a profile shot. But when I got finished with the picture, I was ready to turn it into the publisher, but I still had another couple of weeks before the deadline it was actually due. So, and I thought that the other babies were really fighting, that they were all fighting each other for attention. It was weakening the picture. So what I did was painted all the babies out, kept the ocean, which is what took me the longest to paint.
Wow.
And then went back in and redesigned the picture, and then repainted the one baby in, and now it's one of my favorite paintings.
Wow, yeah, and then all your artwork, it makes you stop and look. Even if you catch a glance of it, you can't help but like, wow.
Well, hopefully, I think that's one of the things that I kind of learned from Frank Frazetta.
Okay.
He was a good buddy of mine, and I consider him one of my teachers, unofficially one of my teachers. And what I learned from him was to try to, before you start doing any drawing on a picture, to work out an interesting design visually, so that if you see it from across the room, it's magnetic and it makes you want to come closer and look more
easily.
That's before you start drawing and before you start putting any of the detail and any of that stuff. Yeah. So I kind of learned that from him. Yeah.
So you drawing for Image Comics, DC, and Marvel, correct?
Correct. I came into the business working for DC. But I'm actually, there were 2 of us, myself and Richard Corbin. We were the first 2 guys to introduce fully painted comic work in comics. That was the first one. Back in 1969, I started to do oil painted comic books, sequential art. And I went into DC and into Warren Publishing and to various publishers with this fully painted work, but nobody could publish it at the time because they were printing on newsprint.
Right.
So I did start at DC. But because they couldn't print my painted work, which is what I really wanted to do, and I was writing as well, and my writing kind of came from underground writing. So that's where I learned to really write. So my writing was a lot more sophisticated than what they were doing at the time. They were kind of writing for 7- and 8-year-olds, and I was writing for adults.
Right.
So then what happened was a couple years later, they opened up Heavy Metal magazine. Heavy Metal was printed on glossy paper, and and they were very progressive. So they insisted that I write my own stories, do whatever I want to do.
That's awesome.
So that was heaven to my ears.
Right.
So I started working for Heavy Metal, and I liked the format so much, meaning that they let me do my best work. They let me do my best work there, so I stayed there for like 30 years.
So out of all the characters you ever drawn, is there one that's like your favorite?
Characters that I've drawn? Well, probably my favorites are the ones that I create.
Oh, the ones that you
So
create.
some of the characters that I've created for Heavy Metal magazine, which would be Charlie and Flytrap. In fact, the complete Charlie and Flytrap book, they're taking orders for it right now. So we're just finishing the book up. That's about 225 pages of comic stories and artwork that I wrote, and I painted all the interiors as well. So it's a nice book. You could order that right now on Amazon.com. Then right after that, the Complete Mudwogs is coming out, which is the same thing. It's about 250 pages of hand-painted multimedia artwork that I wrote the stories. It's considered by many to be the best funny animal artwork and best funny animal stories that ever came out in history.
Awesome.
So those two are coming out through Titan Books, and those two are probably my favorite. But then as far as like doing cover work, I love doing the Marvel Zombies. I mean, that's I just love doing them. I mean, those were my favorite comics of all time. I kind of took my favorite comics from the 1960s, and I took the covers and I reinvented them, kind of keeping the same art direction and just making new covers based on original concepts.
Wow, awesome.
And that's what started the whole zombie thing and got the whole zombie thing going. And based on success for that, I'm told that that's what got AMC off sitting on the fence and to commit and sign Walking Dead. Now I do some variant covers for The Walking Dead as well.
Awesome.
Right now I'm working on this series right here. So this is the George Romero's new series for Marvel Comics. So it's a team up of the Zombie Godfather and the Zombie King. That's George Romero and myself. And it's called Empire of the Dead. And we're on issue 5 right now, and this is coming out from Marvel. And then I'm also working on the new Army of Darkness series right now as well. I'm doing covers for that.
This is Harold Gant with Arthur Suydam signing off. Creative continuity. Oh!